how oftentimes spiritual manipulation is played, where they actually weaponize scripture, which is kind of a concept that's very, very dark and very twisted. And that's what these oppressors will do. They'll twist scripture so that that wife would be in submission, right? Your body is not your own. God hates divorce, Don't you know what submission is? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
And they find...
So the first step is we would get a call or get an email or whatever. We reach out to them, kind of hear their story, what's going on. They don't even know where to start,
Welcome back to Utah Stories. So, I mentioned last segment, if you didn't watch the first segment, I highly encourage it. With me is Laurie Smithson. Thank you so much for being here and having the courage to tell your story. Everybody's got to hear that first segment because I think the key component to overcoming an abusive relationship is courage, and now you're helping women gain the courage, develop a plan, even work with their spouse to decide if this is going to be resolved or not. Can you kind of walk us through what is Beauty from Ashes, and how do you help women overcome abusive relationships, or couples overcome abusive relationships?
Great question. Thank you. So Beauty from Ashes is actually taken from a scripture verse in Isaiah 61:3, and where it talks about, from destruction can come beauty. And that's where our whole ministry is all about. We're super young. We've actually only been a nonprofit 3.5 years now. And what makes us different is that we bring the redemptive hope of Jesus with a Christ-like response to those that are impacted by domestic abuse. So that's not only involves the victim, right, but also the perpetrator, the oppressor. So all those involved. And we bring in the church too, with those that are affiliated with churches and so forth. See, what can we do as a care team with a goal of eventual redemption? That doesn't necessarily mean reconciliation for the marriage, because it's not always possible. But what can Christ do to clean things up, right? So we don't repeat the cycle, because that's the thing with us victims or survivors, is what we like to term ourselves, is we don't want to get back into creating those bad habits again and get ourselves in a different relationship.
Which is really common.
Like really common.
It's like almost like, I think a lot of survivors or people who have been abused believe the person can change, and there is redemption through especially Jesus and Christianity. How many of these women who come to you are looking for reconciliation with their spouse, and how many are just looking for escape? Is it?
There's a quite large number that we call it addicted to hopium. They hope that their abuser will change. They really love them, and they really strongly value the value of marriage and the covenant and take it very seriously. So yes, a lot of them want their marriage to work out.
And so what's the process? So you're not a shelter.
No.
But you've basically partnered with other people who have homes that if somebody needs shelter, you're going to provide that.
Yeah, that is a part of what we do. Like, our main focus is not so much like crisis, like, oh my gosh, like I need to flee now, though we have had some cases and have been able to help. Most of those that we serve are kind of still in that confusion status, and they call seeking like clarity, like what is going on. They're not even comfortable with the A word yet, abuse, nor see themselves or their abuser like as an abusive person. They're just kind of like, what's going on? And so we kind of help walk through them. So the first step is we would get a call or get an email or whatever. We reach out to them, kind of hear their story, what's going on. And then we have an onboarding application. And with that, helps them identify what needs or what ways that we might be able to serve them. How can we best serve you? And so they fill it out, because a lot of times it's like that question, how can we help you? What can we do for you? Is like too overwhelming. They don't even know where to start, you know? And so...
And you mentioned before that there are battered women shelters that are kind of emergency shelters, but they're all full.
They are full. They are full.
So
Absolutely.
what do you do if it's an emergency type situation?
Yeah. So, and we're looking to grow this area as well within the ministry, but we have several host homes of families that have been vetted and that are safe places where people can come and, depending on their situation, stay until we can get them to that next phase, right? So they don't have to return back to that toxic environment.
When you look at the bigger picture of women who are abused and abusive relationships, what's the primary cause of that?
We live in a fallen world, and I really believe that is that heart of entitlement. He desires, well, it could be a she, power and control, and they'll do whatever it takes to maintain that status of getting what they want, when they want, how they want it.
And do you see anything more churches could be doing to prevent that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a great question. And that's a lot of what we do too. So if you're in any type of church leadership or you go to a church and you're like, hey, my church needs to hear about you guys, like we would love to be contacted and put in touch with you guys. Because what we do is we do meet with church leaders and we talk about what domestic abuse is and how oftentimes spiritual manipulation is played, where they actually weaponize scripture, which is kind of a concept that's very dark and very twisted, because when you have a woman who is seeking to please the Lord, right, in every way, shape, or form, to go contrary to that is like so devastating. Like she's letting down the Lord, and that's what these oppressors will do. They'll twist scripture so that that wife would be in submission, right? Your body is not your own. God hates divorce, Don't you know what submission is? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
And they find, like your ex-husband, he'd find the passage.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
recite
yeah.
it to
Oh,
you.
man. And, text
Wow.
it to me or tell me or, it's just like so manipulative and so distorted. It completely takes away the heart of God, because a submission is a willingness. It's not a order to. There was actually an interesting study put together by Called to Peace Ministries. That's kind of a sister organization to us. And they did a national study which indicated 70% of women that go forth to churches for help don't get help. And in fact, make matters worse. So that's an astounding statistics
Wow.
that makes us go,
Like they're
we need
just
to
told,
really
work it out.
Yeah, this is a marriage problem, and they treat it like marriage counseling and that kind of thing, and it's not. It's an abuse problem. In fact, if you want to go to our website at beautyfromashesministries.org, we have an upcoming training that we're opening up to everyone in the Valley. It's going to be at Gospel Hope from 12 to 2. You get free lunch, so be sure you register. But it goes through just that, how to understand, how to identify abuse, and how to respond. How do we do that effectively and well with the purpose of redemptive, hope that Jesus offers? So,
And are all the people on your team women who've escaped abusive relationships, or is it also just people who really want to open up their home and help?
it's a mix. It's a mix. Some have experienced it seeing their parents, right? Or friends who have had that experience. The statistics are astounding, and I'm sure other speakers have spoken to this, but 1 in 3 women and 1 in 5 men here in the Valley are experiencing that. And that's like, wow. And to think that happens still in the church, that statistic is still the same? What?
1 in 3
Yeah.
are abusive.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. This is a tough question to ask. And I don't know if I want to use this part of it. I mean, a lot of us grew up in semi-abusive households, like dad screaming at mom. Maybe mom's kind of screaming back, but dad just kind of overbearing. And so when you find that you're a child of one of these people who does a lot of screaming and yelling, should you get involved? I mean, it's one of these things where of course, you want your parents to have a good relationship, and you want the best for your mom and your dad. But to get involved with their domestic issues, do you think that's something that kids should do?
I'm not sure how impactful they would be. It probably would put them in a dangerous position. I think they observe and they know a lot more than they're given credit for. And that's another one of our initiatives that we want to do is talk to the youth, get in front of the youth, and do more on the education end. What is healthy communication? What does that look like?
Yeah.
And how does dating look like? What are some like red flags to like avoid and things like that, right? Like on the preventative end instead of just reacting to the end result, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a struggle because when one parent is screaming and yelling and it's a little bit over the top, you kind of want to say, dude, chill out, seriously. But then at the same time, you don't want to get in the middle of things. And so it's a tricky balance.
It is a tricky balance. But here's the other thing, you know, we always want to point the finger at that oppressor, right? That's yelling those profanities and stuff. And as evil and wicked that is, there's also something to address to the person that's receiving that end, right? Like, because I had to do a lot of internal work myself. It's not 100% on them. It's like, okay, am I enabling some of this to continue? What am I doing to allow this to continue? Not that it's their fault, but what are some elements that can be addressed as far as like boundaries are concerned and so forth? So
Yeah.
it's a lot of work to be done. It's
Yeah,
messy territory.
It really is. It's no really easy way to talk about it.
Yeah, I know.
Well, Laurie, I think it's awesome what you're doing. Best of luck to you. So tell us again, how do people learn more about Beauty from Ashes?
Beauty from Ashes. So our website is Beauty from Ashes Ministries, that's plural.org. And then we also have a phone number, 801-396-0089. So we do have that training coming up on October 23rd. And we also have a Christmas blessing campaign if any of you would like to sponsor a mother and their children for Christmas.
Okay, that's awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming on. Go out to utahstories.com, become a subscriber of the magazine for $3 a month, or become a member for $5 a month. The membership is great because it'll get you a copy of our almost completed new magazine called Faces of Utah, which highlights some of the best successful leaders in Utah, entrepreneurs in Utah. It's really a catalog and directory of how you can shift your spending to local. So become a member and we will send this to your house absolutely free with your membership, and you'll support everything we're doing here. Visit utahstories.com for more on that. Thank you so much for watching. Leave your comments below. Like, share, subscribe this episode. Especially share this with anybody you know who might be suffering from domestic abuse. It's really good to get educated and to learn about the best local resources, because that is how you solve problems. All right. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.